Okay, so here's a little summary of what's happening in this week's story that's happening in the Parsha. It opens with Jacob, Israel, same person, and his family settling in Hebron. Joseph is his most beloved son, so he makes Joseph a special multicolored coat, which sparks jealousy in the other brothers. Joseph then tells his brothers two of his dreams, which foretell that he is destined to rule over them, increasing their envy and hatred toward him even more. Shimon and Levi plot to kill him. Man, those guys are rough. They're the same ones who last week went and murdered all of the males in the city. It's interesting. I hadn't noticed that connection until this week, that it was Shimon and Levi again. Anyway, Ruvain says, not so fast. He suggests that they throw him into a pit instead, intending to come back later and save him. So his brothers strip Joseph of his special coat and throw him into the pit. Later, Judah convinces the other brothers to sell him to a band of passing Ishmaelites, which, by the way, for some reason are also called Midianites in another passage, one of those strange anomalies. The brothers then smear Joseph's special coat with the blood of a goat and show it to their father, misleading him to believe that his most beloved son was devoured by a wild beast. So Ruvain's good intentions were foiled. The text then shifts to Judah, Yehuda, who marries and has 3 sons. The eldest, Er, marries a woman named Tamar, but then he dies. So Tamar then marries the second son, Onan, but Onan also dies. Judah is reluctant for his 3rd son to marry Tamar, understandably. So she disguises herself as a prostitute and seduces Judah instead. Judah hears that his daughter-in-law has become pregnant and accuses her of harlotry, but when Tamar produces the personal objects he left with her as a pledge for payment, he publicly admits that he is the father. Tamar gives birth to twin sons, Peretz, who is an ancestor of King David, and Zerach. Very interesting. They're telling this whole story as a prelude to the whole messianic era that's supposed to come from the line of King David. Joseph is taken to Egypt and sold to Potiphar, the minister in charge of Pharaoh's slaughterhouses. God blesses everything Joseph does, and soon he's made overseer of all of his master's property. Potiphar's wife tries to seduce Joseph, another seduction. And when Joseph rejects her advances, she tells her husband that the Hebrew slave tried to force himself on her and has him thrown into prison. Joseph gains the trust and admiration of his jailers, who appoint him to a position of authority over the other prisoners. During this time, Joseph meets Pharaoh's chief butler and baker, who were both imprisoned for some offense. They tell Joseph about some disturbing dreams they've been having, which Joseph interprets. In 3 days, he tells them, the butler will be released and the baker hanged. Joseph asks the butler to intercede on his behalf with Pharaoh. When the predictions are fulfilled, the butler forgets all about Joseph and does nothing for him. That's the whole story of the Parsha. Okay, the verse we're going to look at. Vayir'u echav ki ato ahav avihem mikol echav. And when his brothers saw that their father loved him more than the other brothers, vayisneu oto, they hated him. A little story about Rabbi Levi Yitzchak of Berditchev. Once he saw a man hurrying down the street, bumping into things and knocking people over. The rabbi grabbed him and said, "Why are you rushing so?" "I'm running to make a living," replied the man as he tried to break free from the rabbi's grip. "But how do you know that your livelihood is in front of you?" argued the rabbi. "Perhaps it's behind you, and all you have to do is slow down and let it catch up with you." Okay. You may have noticed, in our rush to escape the discomfort of the present, during those times when the present is uncomfortable, our hurriedness can sabotage the arrival of a better future. The remedy for that impulse of aggressive hurriedness is twofold. presence and planning. Presence, as we know, means intentionally being where we are, being where you are on purpose. You can try it right now, by the way. Every time we see a reminder of presence, we can allow that to remind us to do presence, to intentionally be here in this moment. So, more technically speaking, it means learning how to rest awareness in the truth of the moment. Just to clarify, when I say truth, I don't mean some truth that you learn with your mind. I mean the truth of what's actually happening in your experience right now. Even and especially when it's uncomfortable. Being in the discomfort on purpose when there is discomfort. So what is planning? What does that mean? Planning means living with intention. It means having a clear vision of where you're going. When you know where you're going, you're less likely to worry about the temporary discomfort of the moment. It just doesn't matter very much. You have a long-term plan so you can fully enjoy the journey and be present. In this way, even though planning is aimed at the future, it actually supports connection with the present. This is, I think, really key to understand that when we don't have a clear vision of what's happening later, of not what's going to happen, but what our intention is to happen. Like, where are we steering ourselves? If we don't have that, then it creates like a little sense of anxiety because because you can't relax into the journey. You're out of sync in some way if you don't know what you're doing. Vayisna'u oto, they hated him. Israel's sons are jealous of Joseph for being the most beloved of their father, but instead of trying to appease his brothers, he chooses to irritate them. Vayachalom Yosef chalom. Joseph dreamt a dream. Vayagid le'echav vayosifu od seno oto. And he told it to his brothers, and their hatred of him increased even more. In Joseph's first dream, he and his brothers are binding sheaves in a field together when his brothers' sheaves bow to his sheaf. In the second dream, the sun, the moon, and the 11 stars all bow down to him, implying that one day he would rule over his 11 brothers, father and mother. Why was Joseph unconcerned about upsetting his brothers with these dreams? Some say that Joseph was immature and vain, but people who are immature and vain tend to complain when bad things happen to them. Joseph, on the other hand, never complains. His brothers throw him into a pit and sell him to slavery. When he later rises to the most trusted and powerful slave in the house of his master, he is framed and thrown in the dungeon. Through all of these calamities, he never once complains, never once gets angry, never even defends himself. Why? Because he trusts his dreams and he knows where he is going. I put dreams in quotations here because the way I'm seeing this narrative is that the prophetic dream is kind of a metaphor. We may or may not have prophetic dreams. I don't think I've ever had a prophetic dream, but the prophetic dream can be a metaphor for having a sense of where you're going, of a clear vision for the future. Since he knows where he is going, he doesn't have to fuss much about how he gets there. His brothers are mad at him? No big deal, it will work out. Sold into slavery? There's an interesting turn. Everything that happens to him is merely a modulation of the present moment. Whatever it is, he's there with it. He sees his North Star guiding him into the future, and therefore he is fully in the now. In fact, his name embodies this quality, Yosef, which means increase. And this verse we looked at earlier, Vayosifu od seno oto, their hatred increased even more. And the word for increase, Yosifu, is like the word Yosef, has the same letters and it's the same root. No matter how much his suffering increases, he always bounces back and increases toward his goal. He's like cream, always rising to the top, never growing anxious or complaining. He just rides the story of his life, moving steadily toward his destiny. In this week of Shabbat Vayeishev, the Sabbath of dwelling, remember that to be present, we don't have to give up our dreams for the future, but we don't have to run after them either. Instead, let us rest in the intention of where a ship is going, trusting the process. Take the steps you need to actualize your intention, then trust and enjoy the cruise, even when the world seems to be against you. And if you don't know yet where you want to go, that is, if you haven't had the dream yet, you're not sure, that's okay. Be present with the not knowing. In the silence, your dreams will reveal themselves. And that's part of the function of meditation. When we open up into a place of inner stillness and inner silence, the general idea is to notice thoughts as they arise, to let them come and let them go. However, sometimes the thoughts that arise are important. They're not just random meanderings, but they give us some good insight about something. I would say that happens to me, I don't know, maybe 30 or 40% of the time when I'm meditating. Maybe less, I don't know. But when those insights do come, they're very important. They're guidance for what needs to come next. And so I recommend, generally speaking, to have a pen and paper or a pencil and paper, something like that. It's really good to be able to write down thoughts that are important. Once again, the thoughts might be about the future, and if you write them down, then they're there, then you don't have to worry about them anymore right now, meaning you can continue to meditate. You don't have to contemplate on those thoughts. You can bring them back after. Note them down into something that allows you to capture them and also to let them go. So this is the quality of YOD, which is trusting the unfolding of things. And this affirmation says it in the three different forms of the verb and the adjective and the noun. Simplicity, meaning not being complicated in our minds, but connecting in a simple and direct way with the truth of this moment. Let's say the affirmation. I am trusting. I am trustful. I am simplicity. One more time, see if you can feel that quality of YOD in your body as you chant and affirm. I am trusting. I am trustful. I am simplicity. And the chant coming from Psalm 15, this phrase of holech tamim, walking with simplicity, that means being simply present in our actions throughout the day. Mi yagor be'ohalecha, who can rest attention in the body? It literally means who may sojourn in your tent. But again, the tent is a metaphor for the body, resting in the senses. Mi yishkon behar kodshecha, who can dwell on your holy mountain? Again, a metaphor meaning the spaciousness of awareness that transcends the body, the open field of consciousness that we are. Holech tamim, holech tamim, holech tamim, holech tamim, ananai mi yagor be'ohalecha, mi yishkon behar kodshecha, mi yagor be'ohalecha, mi yishkon holech tamim hananai mi yagor be'ohalecha mi yishkon behar kodshecha mi yagor be'ohalecha mi yishkon behar kodshecha